If you're interested in learning how I launched Zim Excellence, then you're in luck. Sign up for my podcast workshop and learn how it's easier and more affordable than ever to start a podcast. Also, grab yourself a copy of my podcast resource guide, which covers industry terminology, suggested tech setup, in addition to countless free online resources to support your podcast journey. Just head to vongai.com/podcast creation. That's vongai.com/podcast creation. The link will also be down in the show notes. Now, let's start the show. Yo, welcome to the party. Hello, makadini salibonani. My name is Vongai, and you're listening to Zim Excellence, a weekly celebration of Zimbabwe's changemakers and trailblazers. So here's the secret, y'all. Zimbabweans are actually dope AF, and it's just time that we recognize it. So grab yourself a plate of sadza and grab that stony ginger beer, and let the party begin. Welcome to another episode of Zim Excellence. Today, my guest is a pioneer in beauty who couldn't find 100% natural products that were up to her impeccable standards of efficacy, quality, and purity. So she started Mauyu Haircare to make them for herself and for women like her who refuse to sacrifice health for beauty, using natural and organic ingredients, some of which are sourced from Zimbabwe. She says, I love doing this. I feel very happy creating a product that not only makes your hair beautiful and healthy, but also helps to have a positive impact on the community around us. That is extremely rewarding. Please welcome Sharon Marongere.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Welcome to the party, Sharon.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Always up for a party.
Yay! So I usually ask people about their origin story because you are a Zim Excellence superhero, and every superhero has their own origin story. So I'd love to get to know about how you got from point A to point B. So you're from Zimbabwe, but
Yes.
your company started in the UK and you're currently in the Netherlands.
Yes. Yes. So I think I'm working my way to being, a lot more of a global citizen, like yourself. I think I've got a few more miles to go, but certainly, part of the journey and the aspiration. But yeah, so a little bit about me. I was born in Zimbabwe and I lived there until my early teens, where I moved to the UK, and then I lived there for about 20 years. So I guess the UK was most of my formative years because I sort of was an early teen, went to school there, went to university, and also began my career there. So I started off, I did business management and marketing at Brunel, like yourself as well.
Fun fact, we are alums.
Yes.
But we only discovered this after the fact. It was like, wait,
yes,
we went to the same school?
Full circle, I guess. The world comes through circle, right? So yes, so I did business management and marketing, and then I kind of fell into the world of market research, where I worked for a number of different companies, consulting, and really just trying to understand, who are your consumers and what are you doing? And it was across a wide range of industries. So you name it, I've been there. I've done baby food, I've done fresh meat, I've done dairy, I've done, laundry, detergent, everything. And I mean, I always found it very, very interesting. So one of the, whilst I was on this journey, I was also working with food companies, and I started looking at health foods. And in it, I started discovering sort of what was up and coming. And I saw this interesting article around baobab and how good it was for you and how much vitamin C it has and all the benefits. And whilst researching, because obviously baobab was then kind of like a little bit of a light bulb in my head, this is something that I've actually sort of remembered and known from my years back in Zimbabwe and grown up with, but never really understood it that much. But then it kind of set me on this kind of curious path to understand a bit more. and discover what this ingredient was. And at that point, I realized actually this is something that we've been sleeping on. I mean, it is there and people do use it, but people don't even realize just how good it is for them. So then that kind of set me on a little research path on what can I do with baobab and how can I kind of bring it a bit more to life. And I started off looking at the food, and beverage industry, but then my real passion kind of lies in beauty and hair care and skincare and along those lines. So at some point when I switched to working for a beauty company, I then also started investigating some of these ingredients for all their benefits. And yeah, I then ended up, somehow discovering Mauyu in the process.
I love that so much. I just want to backtrack and ask, so you mentioned that you moved to the UK in your teens. How was that for you? Did you encounter any culture shock?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It, I guess, is something that no one even prepares you, I guess, for this, right? Because at the time that we moved, this was back in 2000. And
that's the time that I left. We missed each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just,
just passing each other. Yeah.
Exactly, right. And like it was really, really interesting. It was very much a discovery. I think when I was in Zimbabwe, I think at that point in my life, or at that time, every single person I knew, relative-wise, friends-wise, or whatever, or, whoever, was within a relatively close sort of proximity to where I was. And so just that removal of, going to a whole different continent and, just everything worked very differently. The school that we had culturally as well was also very different. I think at the point that we moved, even just myself and my brother were the only Black kids in the school, for example. So it was really quite different, just to learn and understand all of these things that you were never really prepared for to some extent.
Yeah.
So yeah, quite the culture shock.
Yeah, I always find it so interesting to ask people, especially because I feel like your journey is the other way around from mine, because like I grew up in the UK and then I moved to Zimbabwe. So Zimbabwe was my culture shock. And so I'm just like, it's just so intriguing to hear about like the other way around,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Existence and identity and all of those things. They're just so fascinating. Do you have any favorite memories from growing up or visiting Zimbabwe?
Oh, absolutely. I have a lot. I mean, I left in my early teens. So I think probably the most fun parts of your childhood, just playing around, running around, they exist there. And I think there is something about Zimbabwe that I find very, every time I go there, I feel like I'm home.
Yeah.
So I always have this reminder of what it was like to be there, even though I know that it's a different place and, and then, everyone's grown up, people have moved and things like that. But there is still, I think, even for the first few days, each time I'm there, this like something that brings you back in that nostalgia of what it was when you were there. So lots of memories and most of them are very family centered. I mean, I've got my maternal grandmother is still there, but also, just having so much family around. So whenever we had the family gatherings, the Christmas holidays or, birthdays, weddings, things like that, they all kind of hold a very dear part of of my heart at the moment. So yeah.
I love that. So with Mauyu, you and I had this really great conversation where I asked you why baobab, which is what Mauyu is, and you presented this really interesting point that as Africans and as Black people, we often have other people's like products and plants packaged to us, and we're more invested in them than we are in our own indigenous plants. So for example, when Moroccan argan oil was like the latest craze and everyone was talking about that, and Jamaican black castor oil and great, fair enough, they have their own benefits and properties that are super helpful, but like we're ignoring baobab and then other plants like, moringa, for example.
Mhm.
And then we wait
Yeah.
until it's then repackaged to us, which is ridiculous. I remember I was in a beauty supply store in Harlem and I was FaceTiming my mom, and my mom was like, stop, wait, what does that oil say? And I forget what the name of it was. And she was like, yeah, that oil is a plant that you can find in Zimbabwe. I was like, wait, what? And she was just like, like surprised, like, they're selling that? Like, we have that like here.
Maybe it's just that we haven't had the opportunity, but I think we deserve to own our own stories.
Yeah.
And our own heritage as well. And sometimes I think we see the marketing, we see the other products, and I think maybe there's almost a value in, or we see the value in what other people are presenting to us.
Yeah.
Without necessarily realizing that we have even stronger ingredients and products and things that come from our own soil. And I think it's quite an exciting opportunity for us when we look at it that way, because we almost, or the way I look at this is, we can discover a lot more about ourselves because now we have that capacity, right? All the research exists, and actually these things are in our own backyards. I think before, these were, or like some of the ingredients that I talk about or that I know of, I learned about these from maybe listening to my grandma at some points talk about certain things. If someone says, oh, I'm feeling this particular way, or I've got itchy skin or something, and my grandma was like, oh, you get this, aloe vera plant and try and rub it and do these things. So I think some of them, we've also over time then dismissed them as old wives' tales, when actually there is a lot of truth in them, and we just need to kind of dig a bit deeper.
Yeah.
Uncover what that story is, and then we can really own it.
Like you said, we dismiss them as old wives' tales, and then later on it becomes this fad that like everyone's doing just because, I don't know, the latest celebrity is doing it. And then, the older generations are like, yeah, we did this. This isn't new.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is something that we've always had. It's always been around. And I think there's almost that bridge that we need to create, in that the knowledge is there, products are there, the knowledge is there within, our elders and our ancestors. But as like today's generation, it's our job to take it and modernize it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where sometimes the disconnect is, right? It's, oh, I can't be having this because it's so old fashioned, or, oh, it doesn't look as nice, or it's just not well put together. But actually, what can we do to elevate that? That's essentially what every innovation that exists in the world is today, right? Someone looks at the telephone and said, well, how can I make this something that I can move around with, and then they kind of improved upon it. I think that ownership that we need to take within our own heritage and our culture is just taking some of these traditional ideas and then finding ways of bringing them back and making them more relevant for us today, because at the core of them, these ingredients are brilliant.
And I think also making sure that ingredients are sourced sustainably and that they're not exploited from the different communities. I think you brought up that you're working with a couple communities here in Zimbabwe. Today is a great day to start your own podcast. Whether you have a message you want to share with the world, or you think, ooh, it could be fun to have my own talk show like Vongai, getting started is easier than ever. Here at Zim Excellence, we use Buzzsprout, which is hands down the easiest, most affordable, and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Start for free and list your show on directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more within minutes. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping and teaching you to succeed. Just check out their YouTube videos. They are filled with tons of information. So join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Sign up today using the link in the show notes, or go to vongai.com/podcast creation, and you'll get a $20 credit if you sign up for a paid plan. It also helps support the show. So go ahead, sign up for Buzzsprout, and keep me posted on your new podcast. Now back to the show.
Yes. I think that's something that's absolutely important to me, to make sure that whatever it is that we're setting out to do, it's not just for us. It is a legacy that we are trying to build, right? If you're going to look back on this and say, okay, this is what I did, it's not going to start and stop where I am. And I think this is another part of, like, I've been quite lucky. I've got exposure to maybe the world at a slightly different stage because of, having lived in different countries. So why not then try and bring other people on that journey with me, try and source from my home country. I already know that the ingredients are really good. And, this can also help our community in that way, even though it's a small way to contribute, but it's still a way to contribute. And I think, for the longest, we're always thinking of ingredients and things are taken out of the country, but it doesn't always come back to the country. And so this is also, I think, the opportunity that we have as entrepreneurs to look at the entire chain and see the areas that you can make a difference, and it's not just for the really big, manufacturers that have a lot of money to invest in this. It's for everyone to kind of do their part in their own little way. Even if I have like maybe a job to do or something, if I find someone who's based, there are lots of graduates in Zimbabwe who are very capable of, helping with things like social media, stuff like that. If you can find one person and outsource to them, that's also going to make a difference. So I try and do that as much as I can, where I can.
When we had our conversation earlier and I told you I was like a bit of a hair blogger once upon a time in the UK, going to Afro Hair and Beauty Live and all of the things, I remember like so early in my hair journey, I found that it was so frightening that we put our complete trust in companies when it comes to our hair care and our skincare, because we don't bother to learn what the ingredients are or what the processes are that goes into making products, and whether they're animal tested or like synthetic fragrance and like all of these things. So I think it's just so great that, you took it upon yourself. Like, you have a passion to do this. And like, I can't speak for other companies. I feel like some companies do it just because natural is in, but it's like basically here to stay. But you have a passion to do this, and that it drove you to wanting to have more transparency in creating a brand where women like ourselves could be able to see ourselves, and like you said, also using ingredients from the home continent as well. So what was the final straw that like led you to say, I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to explore like creating a product and having a business?
So, yeah, I mean, I think this is something I find I fell into in a way, like in the very beginning. I mean, I've always been very curious, right? And I think it's just one of those things that has grown and grown in me. So like you're saying as well, like when I first set out to keep my natural hair, for example, and try and look after it and all of this, I realized I had no clue what I was doing. And I think at that point you kind of think, okay, maybe let me just protective style until my hair gets a certain length. Or, you just kind of look at things. I mean, this is the approach that I took, I guess. But then I think over time, it's a natural evolution. I'm trying to actually really think about it for me, because I feel like it's been so organic in the way that I've gone into this that I don't even realize at which point I didn't have an aha moment. I'm, I guess, generally someone who's like, okay, I'm very healthy in terms of what I want to eat in my diet. And I guess if you start thinking about eating healthy food, then you probably think, okay, maybe I should be putting healthier things on my skin as well, because I can't be doing that. And then also you start thinking, actually, what am I using in my hair, and are these
I was like the opposite. Mine started with the hair journey, and then
okay.
as I'm learning about hair, I'm learning, well, what you eat also helps with hair growth. And so I'm like, let me start eating all these foods. And then as I'm eating all these foods, I've tricked myself into having a
Okay.
healthier lifestyle. And then I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm starting to feel better. And then I'm
yeah,
then starting to see the differences with like, oh, if I have a certain food, then maybe I have migraines, or like if I have
yeah.
this, maybe my sinuses and all
Mhm.
of this stuff. And then after food, then it spiraled into like, what am I washing my clothes with? What am I putting into my skin?
Yeah,
Just because
yeah,
at the time it was, I guess, maybe pure vanity or narcissism, where I'm like, well, I'm going on a hair journey and I want to grow my hair long like this other hair
yeah.
blogger that I've seen on YouTube.
And then you kind of, but look, however you get to it, as long as like holistically you're doing what's best for you, right? I think that's
Yeah.
that's still the good thing. I think so I was always very good with, I think, my diet and food, and that naturally spread into, okay, what's happening with hair care and things like this. But also, one thing I found is, whenever I used to go shopping and try and get hair products, for example, you seem to get things that are labeled a certain way. What they label them as is not always what's in the product. And what you tend to find is you're spending a lot of money, really. So I'm one of those people. If someone says, oh, try this, or oh, look at this, I'm there. I'm going to put the money towards it. I'm going to try it. And after a while, I realized I had so many products, half of which I didn't really, use that often, didn't
Product
like.
junkie.
Oh, yeah. Like, that is my other name. Like, but I never knew what to look for. And I think, there's a lot of trust that I put in this, in the fact that as long as it's on the shelf, I'm going to
Yeah.
get it and it's going to be okay. And then at some point, I think I just started discovering, okay, let's see what's in this. But also, as part of that journey, I started doing my own kind of things. So I kind of feel like I don't know what came first, whether it's trying to be on the healthy hair journey, or, having the frustration of what was not available for me. But either way, I've almost kind of gone on a discovery path of, okay, let's see how this works. Does this help? Or am I just, wasting money or wasting time trying to do this? And then just kind of streamlining. And one of the things I've realized as well is you don't need too many things,
Yeah.
and also I think what I was doing the other way around is I would, spend on all these products, but I wouldn't put any water in my hair,
That's true.
like,
I feel like the time, like I feel like 2012 like was like the pivotal point. And then from then on, it just kind of snowballed, and you started seeing companies that traditionally were famous for their relaxer products and straightening products were starting
yeah,
to market towards natural hair products. But then you'd look at the back and you'd be like, what? Like it was still kind of the
yeah,
same thing. It was just like like
yeah,
natural hair washing, like kind of like greenwashing with
yeah,
organic foods and vegetables. And the reason why I kind of had to leave the hair blogger thing was I started to see that the way that people would be reviewing products and selling products was just in a way for you to get the product, but not necessarily finding out if it was right for you, like whether or
yeah,
not, like, I know we went over the whole hair typing thing and how, helpful to a degree and then not helpful after a while, because it kind of puts in, it creates this kind of like classism of hair type or a hierarchy of some sort. But when it
yeah,
comes to stuff like having low porosity or hair that just gets a bit more dry and just like, so for instance, I remember people would go on and on about Shea Moisture. And I was
yeah,
like, oh my gosh, I have to get Shea Moisture. It's the miracle product. It seems to be working for this girl with the 3C with like the looser curls, and then this girl with like the tight coils. And then I got Shea Moisture and it never worked for me. Like it literally would leave my hair with so much residue that
yeah,
I found for myself that when I use products that are lighter and I guess more like coconut oil based, or like, well, yeah, lighter, more oil based, or like watery, that works
yeah,
for me rather than for the thicker products. But for other people, the thicker products work. But at the time, people are just saying, oh no, this product is great. And even though hair bloggers would be like, well, I have this type of hair, they'd be like, yeah, this product is wonderful. Or they would put it in such a way that it's like, oh no, it's not that the product doesn't work. It's when you have this type of hair, you can use the product to, I don't know, do a braid out. But then if you have this type of hair, the product works and you can do a wash and go. So they were finding ways to just like market the product so that it wasn't like, oh, it's not that the product doesn't work. It's just that how you're using it on your hair type isn't working, but it's for all hair types. And I'm like, that's a lie. I can't be part of this.
Yeah. It's so complex, right? And I think that's where it gets really tricky, because you have so many things that are available and they're all communicating the same thing. This is going to do this. This is going to do that. And in all of this, you almost need to find a way of like deducting, okay, this is talking to me, this is not talking to me, or this. And I think that's why, for me, the best way to approach it has always been actually what is in the product. Okay, so what are the ingredients? What are the benefits of the ingredients? And then also, as part of that, really work out what my routine and what works for me is, right? Because if you need to use a product every day, and like, okay, if I need to do like a wash every day or something like that, and the product works, that's great. I don't have time to do a wash every day, so this is not going to work for me. So it then kind of creates that disconnect, because I'm never going to see those benefits if that's what is dependent on. But the idea, I think, particularly even with Mauyu and our serum, is, what is your routine? What do you need to do? And if this is what you're doing with your hair, then this is how you can apply the product and how you can get the most out of it. So it's less about the push of like, okay, here's 20 products, use them to do this, this, and this, and have this super complex routine that you won't really stick to. I mean, I think we have so many things going on in our lives as well. So some of these routines need to be able to actually fit into our day-to-day and, move us on to the next thing. Because I love washing my hair, I do, but I cannot do 10-hour wash day on a weekend, just to get everything. I am very much like one of those people where I'm not lazy, but I also like to be able to be very efficient with what I'm doing. So
it feels like being in the gym sometimes. Like if I literally want to do the whole part my hair, detangle, make sure everything's clean and detangled and all the stuff. Like if I wanted to do it in a particular way that in my mind is perfection, it would take me a good 4 hours, and my arms get tired after a while. So I've like created hacks where I'm like, well, do you know what? If I put my hair in braids and I just kind of wash in sections and then just let it dry overnight in sections, and then I like kind of get to it, I can still achieve something that like is good for my hair and keeps it clean. It's just, I guess, not as perfect, like I said, as I'd want it to be, as I would being like and now I'm doing this, and now I'm doing, because it just takes forever.
Yeah, it does.
For our listeners who might not understand or who might be new to this and might be intimidated by the word serum, what exactly does a serum do, and what would the benefits be of the Mauyu serum? Because when I say the word serum, I just think of a mad scientist in a lab, because I'm a nerd and I watch too many superhero things.
Yes. Yeah, like we're just in a little lab, like mixing up.
Yes, it's like, now you're a mutant. Not a mutant. I forget what they call it in DC, but like,
So what Mauyu is, it's an oil-based serum. So it's very light in texture. The idea behind it, and I always say, like, it's got quite a lot of different benefits and uses. So the idea for us when we think about using the serum is adding it to your routine at the point that it makes the most sense. So what I sometimes do is, if I'm about to wash my hair, I would use it to help me detangle, because it's oil-based and it's quite light. If you add it to your hair, so if you put water, add it to your hair, it gives you that slip and helps you to detangle your hair. the idea of the serum is to help your hair health. So I always
Yeah.
focus on the health of your hair. It's got ingredients, mainly baobab, which we're sourcing from Zimbabwe, but I also have jojoba oil. I also have coconut oil. And then we've also got sweet orange, lavender, and rosemary oil. And all of these have a different set of benefits, but work together to basically strengthen your hair. Without getting too technical, what these oils contain are what we call like omega-3 fatty acids. Oleic acid, linoleic acid, very like these fatty acids are very good at kind of strengthening your hair and helping it to grow. And also with jojoba oil, which is in there, it has the same properties of oil that your scalp produces. So it then also helps with anti-inflammatory sort of properties around, dandruff and any sort of irritations that your scalp can have. Then you've also got the likes of like the lavender, the sweet orange, the rosemary. They help with scent, but they're also good to stimulate as well. So I use it in a number of different ways because it does have all these benefits. So if you are pre-washing, for example, then you can use the oil to help to detangle your hair because it gives you that slip. But you can also use it if you want to massage and stimulate your scalp as well, which helps your hair to kind of sort of open up your follicles and help your hair to grow. And then also I tend to use it after my wash as well. So once you've washed your hair, you've got some water on it, you want to seal in that moisture, and a light oil is the best way to do that as well. So I would then also, before I'm styling or before I'm doing something, add the serum to my hair, and then I can go off and do my twist outs or whatever it is that I do next. So yeah, it does work in a number of different ways, but then also this really depends on what your routine is and what you like to do with your hair. Some people might prefer to just use it after they finish styling because they just want to add a bit of shine to their hair. Whereas some people, it's more like, okay, I want to deep condition. So I'm going to put the serum in, with other things that I'm doing. And then I'm going to leave, put my cap on and go off and, spend 20 minutes doing something else and I'll come back. It's just really about what works for you. And I think this is what a lot of products should be doing, is more kind of working with what's best for you rather than here's a product, let's just push it out to everyone and hope for the best.
Yeah, I was going to say with that combination of ingredients, I instantly would think of like I would be using it more as a sealant for like my ends, and like when I'm like I do this thing where I'll have like my like light leave-in, and I'll like put it in my hair, and then I'll add in like my Jamaican black castor oil on top, and then it's like sometimes if I like want the ends to be super defined, I'll put like a tiny bit of gel, but like if that's usually if I need to be on camera for actory things, and I'm like my hair, because black actors and their hair, it's a whole thing, and we have conversations and panels and workshops. It's its own thing. But like I probably would just like skip the gel and just do the serum or the oils, and then just kind of like finish it up and have it do that. And then I guess do like then take a little bit of serum on my fingertips and then massage it through and leave it. And then when I'm taking it down, like taking down the twist out or the braid out, maybe have some serum on my fingertips so that like I'm still putting moisture in my hair as I'm messing with it and it's not frizzing up a bit. With you saying that, you could also use it as a deep treatment, can you heat it?
Yeah.
Cool.
So you could use it as a hot oil treatment as well. Yeah. So I mean, and that's the other thing I think around what we've put in it is you have these ingredients that are super powerful, and that makes them much more versatile with what you can do with them. And so like you can use it in that way. I've got a couple of customers that use it in that way. I rarely do hot oil treatments just because, again, I'm one of those very lazy people.
You're not lazy. We've gone through this. It's just scheduling and it's just schedules. You're the modern woman. You're building an empire.
Exactly. But whenever I have the opportunity, then I also go that route. I actually even discovered now one of my hacks for like quick detangling, because I've got super tight curly hair. And so now I actually, my little hack for detangling is using natural yogurt and then like mix with the serum, and then I let it sit on my hair,
Yeah.
and then I come and I detangle, and it's so much quicker than, you know, than what I was doing before. So anything I can do to make that wash day process easier and quicker,
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
I have a hack where I'll like if I feel like washing my hair when I'm in the shower, and then like
Mhm.
as soon like I'll make sure so it's like all washed, but then I'll make sure that it's like completely drenched. And then while
Mhm.
I'm still in the shower, I have like this avocado leave-in, and I'm just like putting it through all of the
Yeah.
hair, and then I just like let it air dry so that there's moisture, and then again using the light leave-in with the oils,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yeah.
it stays
Mhm.
moisturized for days.
Yeah.
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 I
And
like
I mean,
love my hair. It took me
exactly,
years, but
right?
I absolutely love my hair. It was a spiritual experience coming back to myself.
Yeah, that's good. Does it feel like a discovery
It
for
did
you?
because so I was relaxed from a very young age. And
Mhm.
so I didn't, I guess, know what natural hair was when the new growth would come in. I would be like,
Mhm.
ooh, what is this like fuzzy yet slightly curly thing? This is very fascinating. But then I also
Yeah.
found that like I could see the different textures, like difficult to comb through. This is, back when your mom gives you like a fine tooth comb, just like comb your
Yeah.
hair. And
Yeah.
and so I always hated that bit, and so then always found when I had a fresh relax, I felt like a new woman. I was like, "Yes, I feel amazing. I feel seen." Because again, so similar to you, I was the only Black girl in school, and so it's just like doing my hair always gave me confidence. But then going through the hair journey, I started that after I'd just been hospitalized in 2011, and I fell
Mhm.
through this rabbit hole of watching YouTube and discovering all the hair bloggers and all of that, and just learning the science and also learning the history that
Yeah.
the reason why we have these methods had to do with slavery. They said if you were as light as a paper bag and your hair could pass through a comb, then you could go free or you could work in the house, and all this preferential treatment that I was like, oh wow. So I felt like I was, I guess, learning a bit more about my people. And my dissertation at Brunel was actually a part performance art, part
Mhm.
documentary about my
Nice.
hair journey, because then I'm starting to see the way you see hair on screen. And we had the relaxers, but then we've also had wigs and we've also had weaves, and how it was such a
Mhm.
huge thing in the Black community. But mind
Mhm.
you, outside of our community, there were also other races and cultures of people who are also wearing weaves and wigs. They just called them extensions, or they kept it secret, but they were doing it for years. My friends, I hope you enjoyed part 1, but before you go ahead and click play on part 2, please, please, please go ahead, click that subscribe button, rate, review, and once you're done, meet me back for part 2.